The Xindi aliens discovered too late that their invincible bodies could still be ripped apart by human weapons, as trillions of alien corpses piled up on the blood-soaked soil of Earth. Lewis Davis sat hunched over the bar on Zeta Station, his eyes staring vacantly into his third whiskey glass. Even this far out in the Arcturus system, everyone knew his face, the face of humanity's savior, of the man who had done the impossible. Lewis finally looked up from his drink, exhaustion emanating from his very pores. "What's it to you, kid? Looking for a story to tell your buddies back home?" The alien, Louis could see now that he was a young Altarian, leaned forward eagerly. "I want to know how you did it. The Xindi, they were supposed to be unkillable. Their technology, their regeneration. The stories say entire planets fell before them, until they came to Earth, until they met you at." A humorless chuckle escaped Louis's lips. He took another swig, relishing the burn sliding down his throat. "All right, kid. You really want to know? It ain't a pretty story." Louis's mind drifted back to those early days, when the Xindi ships first darkened Earth's skies, when their monstrous forms first stomped through city streets, shrugging off bullets and shells and missiles like they were nothing more than raindrops. He remembered the terror, the hopelessness as Earth's mightiest armies crumpled like wet tissue paper before the alien onslaught. "We were on the brink, kid. The end of the human race. Our last chance was the Lazarus Project, a bunch of crazy scientists playing God, trying to build a better soldier, a soldier who could stand against the Xindi." Louis fixed the Altarian with a piercing stare. "They made me into a weapon, the only weapon that could kill an unkillable foe. I was our final hope. If I failed, humanity died." The young alien's eyes were wide as saucers now. "What did they do to you? How did you fight them?" Louis stood abruptly, tossing a credit chip on the bar. "That's a story that needs something stronger than whiskey, kid. Maybe next time." He strode out of the bar, leaving the Altarian and his questions behind. But the memories lingered as they always did. Memories of impossible odds, of desperation and blood, and the fate of a species resting on one man's enhanced shoulders. The Xindi had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Thanks to Louis Davis, they had found only death. And now, the galaxy whispered of the human who had done the impossible, the human who had killed the unkillable. The Altarian signaled the bartender, who slid another whiskey in front of Louis. Louis nodded his thanks, took a sip, and continued his tale. The Lazarus Project scientists had cooked up a swarm of nanites, tiny machines designed to get inside the Xindi and turn their healing factor against them. It was all theoretical. We didn't have time for proper trials. But Earth was on the line. So I stepped up. Louis's eyes took on a faraway look as he recounted his mission. "I still remember the Xindi mothership. It was alive, kid, pulsing, glowing green, like some kind of sea monster from the deep. And inside, it was crawling with the bastards." He unconsciously flexed his hands as if reliving the battle. "Xindi claws raked my skin. Their energy weapons burned like hellfire. But I had the nanites coursing through my veins, knitting me back together as I pushed forward, each wound healing over in seconds." Louis paused, his breath hitching slightly. "I fought my way to the heart of that monstrosity, to the Xindi Queen's chamber. And let me tell you, kid, she was nightmare fuel, part living flesh, part machine, an abomination." She looked at me and laughed, thought she was untouchable. A grim smile twisted Louis's lips. "But I had an ace up my sleeve. I let the nanites loose. They swarmed her, burrowing into her flesh, tearing her apart from the inside. Her screams, they shook the whole damn ship." Altair was leaning so far forward he was nearly falling off his stool, completely enraptured. Louis went on. "The nanites spread like a plague, jumping from one Xindi to the next. Their healing abilities were useless. Worse than useless. The nanites used them to replicate faster. In minutes the ship was a slaughterhouse, Xindi dropping left and right as the microscopic machines ate them alive." "So you did it, you beat them?" Altair asked breathlessly. "Earth was saved?" But the nanites, they were supposed to be foolproof, Altair interjected, his voice quavering slightly. How could the Zindi have survived? Louis shook his head, a grim expression etched on his face. We underestimated them, kid. They're like cockroaches, always finding a way to survive, and this time they came back even deadlier. Louis's voice trailed off, his eyes haunted by the memory. They never came back, not a single one. That's when we knew something was very wrong. He leaned forward, his voice low and intense. Command put together a special team, the best soldiers and scientists we had. They sent us to this remote moon on the edge of the system where the disturbances were strongest, and what we found there, it was like something out of a nightmare. Louis's hands clenched into fists as he spoke. The Zindi had built a secret base, hidden away from prying eyes. And inside, they were playing God, experimenting on humans, fusing them with Zindi DNA to create abominations. Altair's eyes widened in horror as Louis described the twisted creatures that had once been human. They were like something out of a fever dream, part human, part Zindi, and they had all the strengths of both, the Zindi's regenerative powers and the human's intelligence and adaptability, the perfect soldiers for their new army. Louis and his team had fought their way through the base, putting down the hybrid monstrosities and destroying the Zindi's twisted experiments. But as they dug deeper, they uncovered an even more terrifying truth. The hybrids were just the beginning, Louis said, his voice barely above a whisper. We found plans for something called the Omega Protocol, a failsafe the Zindi had put in place in case they lost the war, a doomsday device that could wipe out all life in the universe. He looked up at Altair, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. We knew then that we had to stop them no matter the cost. We had to find the Omega Protocol and destroy it before the Zindi could use it, before they could end everything. Louis stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I need some air, he muttered, striding towards the door of the bar. Altair watched him go, his mind reeling from the revelation of the Zindi's ultimate weapon. When we got back to Earth, it was like stepping into a war zone, Louis continued, his voice low and rough. Cities were burning, people were screaming in the streets. The hybrids had already wormed their way into every level of society, and they were tearing it apart from the inside. He shook his head, his eyes haunted. You couldn't trust anyone. Your neighbor, your friend, even your own family. Any one of them could be a hybrid, just waiting for the signal to strike. Louis and his team fought their way through the chaos, desperately trying to stem the tide of destruction. They raided government buildings, corporate headquarters, anywhere the hybrids might be hiding. But it was like playing a deadly game of whack-a-mole. As soon as they took one down, two more popped up in its place. We were losing ground and we knew it, Louis said grimly. But then we caught a break. One of our techs managed to hack into the Zindi communication network, and we discovered the truth about the Omega Protocol. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. The device was linked to a network of sleeper agents, each one carrying a piece of the activation code. If they all came together and input their codes, it would trigger a chain reaction that would wipe out everything. Every planet, every star, every living thing in the universe. Altair's face paled at the revelation, but Louis continued relentlessly. We had to find those agents and take them out before they could trigger the device. It was our only chance. What followed was a brutal, bloody campaign, as Louis and his team hunted down the sleeper agents one by one. They fought through hordes of hybrids, each battle more desperate than the last. We lost a lot of good people, Louis said, his voice heavy with grief. But we couldn't stop, we couldn't let their sacrifices be in vain. We had to finish the mission, no matter the cost. Finally, after months of fighting, they cornered the last sleeper agent in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Louis and his team burst in, weapons drawn, ready to end the threat once and for all. But as they approached the agent, they realized something was wrong. He was slumped over, a strange device strapped to his chest, and as Louis drew closer, he heard a voice that chilled him to the bone. "You're too late," the agent rasped, a twisted smile on his face. The protocol has already begun. There's no stopping it now. Louis stared in horror at the device, realization dawning on him. Louis's voice was heavy as he revealed the shocking truth to Altair. The last sleeper agent wasn't a Xindi or a hybrid. It was a human, a high-ranking official in the Earth Defense Council named General Marcus Thompson. He had been working with the Xindi all along, helping them infiltrate our defenses and sabotage our efforts to stop the Omega Protocol. Altair's eyes widened in disbelief. A human, but why would he betray his own species? Louis shook his head, the betrayal still a fresh wound. We confronted him, demanding answers. His response chilled us to the bone. Thompson believed that humanity was a plague, a disease that needed to be wiped out for the greater good of the universe. The general had ranted about humanity's destructive nature, how they consumed resources and spread conflict wherever they went. He saw the Xindi as allies in his twisted vision of a universe purged of human influence. The Omega Protocol wasn't just a Xindi weapon, but a collaborative effort between them and a faction of humans who saw their own species as a threat to the cosmos. Faced with this revelation, Louis and his team were confronted with an impossible choice. They could kill the traitor and stop the Omega Protocol, but in doing so, they would be playing right into the Xindi's hands, proving that humanity was indeed a violent and destructive species. We knew we had to find another way, Louis said, his voice low and determined. A way to prove that humanity was worth saving, that we could be more than the monsters Thompson and his allies believed us to be. But time was running out. The Omega Protocol was already in motion, and with each passing moment, the universe edged closer to total annihilation. Louis and his team had to act fast, had to find a way to stop the Doomsday device and expose Thompson's treachery without resorting to the very violence they sought to disprove. Louis stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. We had a plan, but it was risky. One wrong move and it would all be over. He turned to Altair, his eyes burning with intensity. We had to infiltrate the Earth Defense Council itself, had to find proof of Thompson's betrayal and the Xindi's true intentions, and we had to do it without getting caught. Louis paused, taking a long pull from his whiskey glass. The weight of the memories pressed down on him, but he knew he had to finish the story. Altair leaned forward, hanging on his every word. We had to move fast, Louis continued, his voice low and intense. We staged a daring raid on the Earth Defense Council headquarters, catching Thompson and his co-conspirators off guard. It was a brutal fight, but we managed to subdue them and take them into custody. Louis and his team knew that simply killing the traitors wouldn't be enough. They had to send a message, to show the Xindi and their human allies that there was another way. We put Thompson and the others on trial, broadcasting it across the galaxy, Louis said, his eyes distant as he recalled the event. We gave them a chance to speak, to explain their actions and the reasoning behind the Omega Protocol. Thompson ranted and raved, spewing his twisted ideology for all to hear, Louis said, shaking his head. But instead of condemning him, we offered him a chance at redemption. We showed him that humanity was willing to forgive, to offer a second chance to those who had lost their way. The gesture had a profound impact on the Xindi and their human collaborators. Many began to question their beliefs, wondering if they had been wrong about humanity all along. It was a turning point in the war, Louis explained, a hint of pride in his voice. The Xindi started to withdraw, and the human collaborators turned on each other, their alliance crumbling from within. But even as the tide began to turn, Louis and his team knew that the battle was far from over. The remnants of the Xindi forces and their loyal human allies still possessed the Omega Protocol, and they were determined to see it through to the end. We knew we had to act fast, Louis said, his voice taking on a sense of urgency. We put together a strike team, the best of the best, and set out to destroy the Omega Protocol once and for all. Louis and his team embarked on a perilous mission, infiltrating the heavily guarded facility where the Doomsday device was being kept. They moved silently through the shadows, taking out guards with precise, calculated strikes. As they approached the central chamber, They could feel the air thrumming with energy. The Omega Protocol loomed before them, a massive, pulsing machine that seemed to writhe with a malevolent intelligence. "We knew we only had one shot at this," Louis said, his voice barely above a whisper. "One wrong move and it would all be over." The team split up, each taking a critical component of the device. Louis himself headed straight for the core, a glowing sphere of pure, destructive energy. He could feel the heat emanating from it, could hear the whispers of the lives it threatened to consume. With a roar of defiance, Louis plunged his fist into the core, the nanites in his blood surging forth to do their work. The sphere began to crack, spider webs of light spreading across its surface. "It fought back," Louis grunted, wincing at the memory. "Tried to fry me from the inside out, but I held on, pouring everything I had into tearing it apart." Around him, his team worked frantically to disable the other components, dodging energy blasts and grappling with the remaining guards. The chamber shook with the force of the battle, debris raining down from the ceiling. "Just when I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, it finally gave way," Louis said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. The core shattered, and the Omega Protocol let out this awful, wailing sound, like a dying beast. The device collapsed in on itself, the destructive energy dissipating harmlessly into the air. Louis and his team stood amidst the wreckage, battered and bleeding, but victorious. "We had done it," Louis said, a small, tired smile playing across his face. "We had stopped the Omega Protocol. Humanity was safe." But even as they celebrated their victory, Louis knew that the scars of the war would linger. The Xindi had left their mark on the galaxy, and the revelation of the human traitors had shaken humanity to its core. Louis drained the last of his whiskey, setting the glass down with a heavy thunk. He looked up at Altair, his eyes haunted by the memories of all he had seen and done. Louis pauses, taking a deep breath before continuing his harrowing tale. "As we fought our way through the facility, we suddenly found ourselves facing a new breed of enemy, unlike anything we had encountered before. These Xindi-human hybrids were the stuff of nightmares, cybernetically enhanced killing machines that combined the worst of both species." His voice trembles slightly as he recalls the brutal battle that ensued. "They came at us from all sides, their mechanical limbs flailing, their eyes glowing with a cold, inhuman light. Our weapons seemed to barely slow them down as they shrugged off rounds that would have felled a normal Xindi warrior." Around him, Louis's teammates fell one by one, their screams echoing through the metal corridors. "We lost Jenkins first, then Ramirez. Chen managed to take down 2 of the hybrids before they ripped him apart. It was a bloodbath, but we couldn't stop. We had to reach the Omega Protocol." Gritting his teeth, Louis led the remaining members of his team deeper into the facility, the sounds of pursuit never far behind. They finally reached the central chamber, a vast circular room dominated by a pulsing, malevolent machine. And there, standing before the Omega Protocol, was the Xindi leader himself. He turned to face us, a cruel smile twisting his features. In that moment, Louis knew that the fate of the universe would be decided by the outcome of this final confrontation. It was just us now, a handful of battered, exhausted humans, facing the most powerful being in the galaxy. But we couldn't back down. We had to end this, once and for all. With a roar of defiance, Louis charged forward, his teammates close behind. They clashed with the Xindi leader in a brutal melee, fists and blades and bursts of energy flying in all directions. It was like fighting a force of nature, Louis recounts, wincing at the memory. Every time we managed to land a blow, he just shrugged it off and came at us even harder. One by one, Louis's remaining allies fell, until only he remained, locked in a desperate struggle with the Xindi leader. They grappled across the chamber, smashing through consoles and support struts, neither willing to yield. I could feel my strength fading, my injuries taking their toll, but I couldn't give up, not with so much at stake. In a final, desperate gambit, Louis managed to get his hands on the Xindi leader's cybernetic implants. With a savage twist, he tore them free, sending sparks and fluids flying. The leader stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock and pain. And then I saw my chance. I lunged forward, driving my fist straight into his chest, through flesh and bone and metal, and as I felt his heart burst beneath my fingers, I knew it was over. Louis staggers back, the Xindi leader's lifeless body slumping to the floor. Around him, the Omega Protocol thrums with malevolent energy, the countdown to universal annihilation still ticking away. With a grunt of effort, Louis hauls himself to the control console and begins frantically working to deactivate the device. "It was close, too damn close," he mutters, his fingers flying across the controls. "Seconds away from the end of everything, but somehow I did it. I shut it down." As the machine powers down with a dying whine, Louis allows himself a moment to slump forward, his forehead pressed against the cool metal of the console. It's over, he thinks. It's finally over. But as he turns to survey the carnage of the chamber, his eyes fall upon a sight that stops him cold. There, amidst the broken bodies of his teammates and the shattered remnants of the Xindi forces, lies a small, innocuous-looking device. A device that Louis recognizes with a surge of dread. Louis stares at the small, innocuous-looking device, his blood running cold. He recognizes it immediately, a Xindi failsafe, designed to trigger a self-destruct sequence in the event of the Omega Protocol's failure. If activated, it would not only destroy the facility, but could potentially destabilize the entire region of space. With shaking hands, Louis reaches for the device, his mind racing as he tries to figure out how to disarm it. But before he can touch it, a voice rings out from the shadows. Louis spins around, his weapon at the ready, to find himself face to face with a group of Xindi. But these Xindi are different from the ones he's been fighting. Their faces are worn and haggard, their eyes filled with a deep sadness. "Who are you?" Louis demands, his finger hovering over the trigger. The lead Xindi steps forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "We are the original Xindi, the ones who first came to Earth all those years ago. We have been in stasis, trapped in this facility, while our descendants waged war on your people." Louis's eyes widen as he realizes the truth. The Xindi he had been fighting were not the true Xindi, but a twisted offshoot, corrupted by their own technology and lust for power. The original Xindi had been betrayed by their own kind, left to slumber in stasis, while their children brought the universe to the brink of annihilation. As Louis and his team explore the hidden chamber, they find rows upon rows of stasis pods, each containing a sleeping Xindi. The original Xindi explained their tragic history, how they had been usurped by a faction of their own species who believed that the only way to ensure their survival was through conquest and domination. "We tried to stop them," the lead Xindi says, his voice heavy with regret, "but we were outnumbered and outmatched. They placed us in stasis, intending to keep us here forever, while they remade the universe in their own image." Louis and his team are faced with a difficult decision. They could leave the original Xindi in stasis, ensuring that they would never again pose a threat to humanity. Or they could wake them up and give them a chance at redemption. "We chose the latter," Louis tells Altair, a hint of pride in his voice. "We believed that everyone deserved a second chance, even our greatest enemies." They woke the Xindi from their slumber and explained all that had happened in the years they had been asleep. The Xindi were shocked and horrified by what their descendants had done, the atrocities committed in their name. They vowed to make amends, to help rebuild what had been destroyed. "They shared their advanced technology and knowledge with us," Louis explains. "Together we ushered in a new era of peace and prosperity, a golden age that lasted for generations." But as Louis and Altair sit in the bar sipping their drinks, they both know that the story is not yet over. The universe is a vast and dangerous place, filled with countless threats both known and unknown. And while the Xindi threat may have been vanquished, Louis can't shake the feeling that something else is out there waiting in the shadows. He glances down at his drink, watching the ice cubes clink against the glass. The weight of all he has seen and done sits heavy on his shoulders, a burden he knows he will carry for the rest of his days. But he also knows that as long as there are those willing to fight for what is right, to stand against the darkness no matter the cost, there is still hope. Louis looks up at Altair, a small smile playing across his weathered face. But that, my friend, is a story for another time. Louis leans in closer to Altair, his eyes darting around to make sure no one else is listening. You see, kid, not all the Xindi were ready to bury the hatchet. Some of the most hardcore, the real zealots, they just couldn't let go of their hatred for us humans. He takes a swig of his drink, his face darkening. They went underground, disappeared into the shadows. We thought they were gone for good, but they were just biding their time, waiting for their chance to strike back. Louis explains how as the years went by and the galaxy settled into a new era of peace, the rogue Xindi were quietly gathering strength. They called themselves the Xindi Remnant, and they had one goal, to finish what they started all those years ago, to wipe humanity off the galactic map once and for all. He reveals that he's been on their trail for years, using every contact and resource at his disposal to keep tabs on their movements. And what I've uncovered, kid, it's bad. Real bad. They've got a new weapon, something that makes the Omega Protocol look like a firecracker. Louis's voice drops to a whisper. They call it the extinction bomb. One shot and it'll wipe out every human colony, every outpost, every trace of our existence. It'll be like we never even existed. He leans back, his eyes hard. I've been putting together a team, the best of the best. Soldiers, spies, assassins, you name it. Each one with a specific set of skills, each one ready to do whatever it takes to stop the remnant. Louis fixes Altair with a piercing stare. But even with all of them, I don't know if it'll be enough. This is bigger than anything we've faced before. We're going to need help, kid. We're going to need every ally we can get. Louis fixes Altair with a piercing stare, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity. We need your help, kid. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance, and we can't do this without you. Altair shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his mind racing. He's just a simple pilot, a small cog in the vast machinery of the galaxy. What could he possibly offer to a legend like Louis Davis? But as he looks into Louis's eyes, he sees something there that he's never seen before. A desperate, pleading look. The look of a man who has run out of options. I don't know, Altair stammers, his voice shaking. I'm not a soldier. I'm not like you. Louis reaches out, gripping Altair's shoulder with a firm hand. You're exactly what we need, kid. You've got skills, knowledge, and most importantly, you've got heart. The Xindi Remnant won't be expecting someone like you. That gives us an edge. Altair takes a deep breath, his mind spinning. He thinks of all the stories he's heard about Louis Davis, about the sacrifices he's made, and the battles he's fought. Can he really turn his back on that legacy? Okay, he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm in. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. Louis nods, a grim smile playing across his weathered face. Welcome to the team, kid. The next few weeks are a blur of activity as Louis assembles his team. There's Zara, the deadly assassin with a heart of ice, Rax, the hulking Cronan warrior with fists like sledgehammers, Cal, the brilliant hacker who can infiltrate any system, and Altair, the unlikely hero who holds the key to their success. Together they begin their perilous mission, slipping through the shadows of the galaxy as they close in on the Xindi Remnant stronghold. They face countless challenges along the way, treacherous informants, deadly traps, and the ever-present threat of discovery. But even as they press forward, the team begins to fray at the edges. Cal is the first to fall, caught in the crossfire of a vicious firefight. Zara is next, sacrificing herself to buy the others time to escape an ambush. Each death weighs heavily on Louis's conscience, a reminder of the terrible price of failure. But he pushes on, driven by a sense of duty and a desperate need to see this mission through to the end. As they finally breach the stronghold's defenses, they make a shocking discovery. The extinction bomb is not a weapon at all, but a living creature, a genetically engineered monstrosity of immense power. The Xindi Remnant's plan becomes clear. They intend to unleash this creature upon the galaxy, letting it consume and destroy everything in its path. In a final, desperate assault, Louis leads his remaining team members into the heart of the stronghold. They battle their way through hordes of Zindi warriors, each fight more brutal than the last. Rax falls next, his body broken and bloody but his spirit unbroken. Then Zara, her final act of defiance, a searing blast of energy that clears the way for Louis and Altair. And then at last, they stand before the Zindi leader himself. He is a twisted mirror image of Louis, his face contorted with hatred and a desperate desire for revenge. The battle that follows is the stuff of legend, a clash of titans that shakes the very foundations of the stronghold. Louis and the leader are evenly matched, trading blows with a savage intensity. But as the fight rages on, Louis begins to falter. His injuries slow him down, his reflexes dulled by exhaustion and pain. In a moment of terrible clarity, he realizes that there is only one way to end this, only one way to stop the creature and save the galaxy. With a final desperate cry, Louis activates the explosives strapped to his body. The blast is blinding, a searing wave of heat and light that consumes everything in its path. When the smoke clears, the stronghold is nothing but rubble. The creature is dead, its twisted form burned to ash, and Louis Davis, the savior of humanity, lies broken and still amidst the debris. Altair staggers to his feet, his ears ringing and his vision blurred. He looks down at Louis's body, tears streaming down his face. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.